Hey, future real estate moguls. Today we are diving deep into the world of due diligence part two. Because there are so many steps in this process, this will be a three-part video series. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, a seasoned investor, or just curious about the process, join me as I unravel the essential steps to ensure a smart and informed real estate decision. Don't miss out on the key insights that can save you money, mitigate risk, and set you on the path to real estate success. Get ready to take lots of notes. In part one of the due diligence process, we talked about property inspection, title search, and insurance, and financial analysis of a property and why these steps are important. So if you missed part one, go back to look at that because those three steps in the process are very, very important. So today we will talk about three more crucial steps in the due diligence process. So watch until the end and let's get started. But first, please hit the like, subscribe, and notification button so this information can be shared with lots of people. I'm Dr. Brown, and we will look at our due diligence checklist and explore the next three steps in this process. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and we're going to look at the due diligence checklist. Here we go. All right. So in the last video, we talked about the property inspection, the title search and insurance, and financial analysis. So today we're going to talk about market analysis, environmental assessment, and zoning and land use analysis. And then in the next video, we're going to talk about the legal and regulatory comps, and then the lease and tenant analysis and insurance coverage. So these are all of the steps. And then we're probably going to have a bonus video because there's another step in here that is very important that we need to talk about as well. So I'm going to stop sharing here. And then we are going to look at those three steps, the next three steps in the process. Make sure you have your pencil and paper ready. All right, so the next three steps that we're going to be looking at are market analysis, environmental assessment, zoning, and land use analysis. All right. So market analysis. The objective of a market analysis is to understand the local real estate market. And the actions that you're going to take is investigate recent property sales and trends in the area, assess demand for rental properties and future market projections, and consider the impact of economic and demographic factors on property value. And really and truly, the market analysis needs to be done first so that you're understanding the market that you're investing in. You want to make sure that this is the right season and the right time for you to invest in the market that's going on right now or currently. You want to make sure the interest rates and the mortgage options are what you need them to be. You need to make sure that the rent in the area that you're looking at is something that is going to put you in a positive cash flow lane. So that market analysis is really your planning step. And that's also going to be where you're going to decide what kind of investment you're going to use this as, whether it's going to be a buy and hold, a fix and flip, a wholesale, or a house hack. And a house hack is where you would buy the property as your primary residence, and you would stay in there for a year and 1 day. And then after that, you can rent that property out to someone else and you can do it again. So that's really a quick way to grow your portfolio is the house hack. And we will have that in a different video because that's a really good way to invest and get your portfolio up quickly. All right, so environmental assessment. Your objective is to identify potential environmental hazards. Your actions are going to be to conduct an environmental assessment if the property has a history of industrial use. You're going to check to see if there's potential contamination or environmental restrictions on the property that you're looking to invest in. A lot of people don't know that if you purchase a property and you can't build on it or you can't live on it or develop on it because it has contamination or some kind of industrial use on there, then you just bought a property that you can do nothing with except look at. And no one wants to invest in a property that's not going to be an income producing asset. So that environmental assessment is really important. And then last but not least is the zoning and land use analysis. So your objective is to verify the property use compliance with local regulations. The actions you're going to perform are you're going to confirm zoning regulations and land use restrictions. You're going to verify if there are any planned developments or changes in the neighborhood. So with this zoning and land use analysis, this is going to ensure that whatever the property is that you're investing in, that it is being used for the intended purpose in which they zoned it in. Because, for example, if you have a triplex and you are using, and it was zoned as a duplex, then you're going to have problems because it's being used in a way that it was not intended for zoning. And there is paperwork that you can fill out to change the zoning on there or to get permission to use it in a different way than what it was zoned for. So you really want to be careful when you're looking at properties that are more than one unit, and that's a duplex, a triplex, or a fourplex. You want to make sure that that when you're buying this property, that it is zoned for what you are intending to use it for. Otherwise, there's paperwork, there's petitions. You can get it done, but it's going to take a little more, a little extra legwork. All right. So these are the next 3 steps in the due diligence process. Remember, the due diligence process timetable is 10 days. So you do have 10 days to get these things done. And the market analysis is pretty much going to be on you to do, but the environmental assessment and the zoning and land use analysis, your real estate agent can help you with that. So now we're going to look at why these 3 steps are very important in the due diligence process. So I'm going to stop sharing and we're going to look at the whiteboard. All right, let's see here. And we're going to open it up and look to see why this is so important. All of these steps are very important, but I'm highlighting the importance of it so that you don't skip any of the steps. All right, so let's make this bigger. So why SFR property financial and market analysis are important? The reason is there are 6 informed investment decisions. So you want to make sure that this property is going to perform financially the way you had intended it to perform. And you want to make sure that it's aligned with your investment goals. So you want to make sure that the market analysis that you look at is going to address all of the financial goals that you have. The second reason is risk mitigation. So understanding market conditions helps mitigate risk associated with property value fluctuations and economic downturns. So this is where you're going to be looking at the comps in the area of those houses that were sold in the last 6 months. You want to make sure that the property values are not fluctuating down or that there's an economic downturn. You want to make sure that your property values are going up and that they're appreciating. This step is important because it's going to help you to set realistic expectations. So buyers and investors can set realistic expectation for returns and property appreciation based on accurate financial and market analysis. So you want to make sure that your returns on investment are in line with what your goals are. You want to make sure that the rent is going to be able to take care of the operating expenses and the mortgage if you have to finance the property. So you need to make sure that you're setting realistic expectations when you are looking at an area. For example, if you're looking at a house or a home that is, let's say, $100,000, and it is in an area that is not an appealing area, let's just say that, you're not going to get the rents that you're anticipating in an area that is a downtrodden area. You may get half of the rent that you would get if you were investing in an area that is more in line with property value appreciation. Negotiation. So when you're doing your market analysis, this is going to arm you with a solid understanding of the property's financials and market dynamics. And buyers can negotiate better deals. If you're in say, for example, a buyer's market, then you're more than likely going to be able to negotiate a better deal, because there is a lot of there's not enough real estate. There's not enough inventory to go around. So if you're in a buyer's market, then that means that more than likely some of those houses are staying on the market longer than the seller wants them to. So a lot of times they will negotiate a better deal just to get it sold. Property valuation. Accurate market analysis ensures that the property is priced correctly and whether buying or selling. So this is where the appraisal comes in, and we're going to have a whole other video on this. But the appraisal is very important because you want to make sure that you are actually buying the house at the price that it's worth. You don't want to over purchase of an investment property and pay more than what it is worth. You want to make sure that you have equity in the property, which means that you're paying less than what the property is actually worth, which gives you some leverage in using the equity in the property to either get repairs done or to actually get money out at closing to purchase another property. So the appraisal is very important. Optimizing returns. Investors can identify opportunities to optimize returns by choosing properties in high demand areas or making improvements that align with market trends. So as an investor, you want to make sure that you're purchasing properties where you can actually add value to the property, because if you buy a turnkey property and you, let's say, want to fix and flip it, well, you're not going to get anything. You're not going to get a return on your investment because you didn't do anything to the property. So you want to make sure that you're buying a value add property, which is going to allow you to optimize your returns on that property. All right, the next step, why is environmental assessment important? Well, you have health and safety concerns. You want to identify hazardous materials such as asbestos or lead-based paint or mold, which could cause health risks to occupants. You never want to purchase a property and you haven't done the environmental assessment on that property, because you don't want somebody to get in there and live and get sick because you didn't do your due diligence. Number 2, regulatory compliance. So you want to ensure the compliance with local, state, federal environmental regulations, because if you don't comply, it may result in legal consequences and financial liability. So you could get sued if you are not being forthcoming in the environmental assessment or disclosures. Property value and marketability. So this environmental assessment is important because it will help you to mitigate risk for property investors. So it will identify and address environmental issues. It will help property investors mitigate risk, maintain property value, and enhance marketability. If you purchase a property that has contamination or some kind of hazardous materials, then your property value on that investment is, of course, going to go down, and the marketability of you being able to sell that property is going to be zero, because no one is going to want to buy a property that has these hazardous potentials. Okay, financing and insurance requirements. The lender is going to require that you do an environmental assessment before funding the deal, because they do not want to be associated with any kind of environmental risk, because then that puts their company at risk. Insurance coverage. Environmental assessments help property owners secure appropriate insurance coverage by identifying potential risks that may affect coverage eligibility. So even the insurance company is not going to insure this property if it has these environmental risks. Disclosure and transparency. So when you are purchasing a property, the seller is supposed to disclose and be very transparent about everything that they know that is going on with this property. So with these disclosures, it's going to help you to make an informed decision if there is like lead paint or some kind of contamination or mold or asbestos. It's going to help you to realize the liabilities with this property, and you can walk away from that because you don't want to deal with any kind of contamination with the property. Seller's disclosure. The sellers are required by law to disclose any known environmental issues, and that includes if someone was in there previously that had some kind of drug lab or meth lab or something like that in there. The seller has to disclose that, because that is an environmental hazard if someone was in there misusing the property like that, and it could make other people sick or even die from that. And then number 6, future development and land use planning. So you want to do this environmental assessment for future construction projects. So if you intend on developing something on this land, you want to make sure that you do all of your due diligence so it does not impede your project. You want to make sure that your construction is as smooth as possible, and you want to get it done as quickly as possible. Now, if there is some kind of contamination on this land, you are not going to get the permits that you need to build on the land. And it's going to end up being a piece of property that you can just look at, because no one is going to give you permits or finance it or insure it if it has problems with the land. And then land use planning. It helps in planning and developing the property in a manner that complies with environmental regulations and minimizes environmental impact. So you want to make sure that you are taking care of the environment and being responsible. And then step number 3, the importance of zoning and land use analysis. So you want to make sure that you are in compliance with regulations and avoid legal issues. So you want to make sure that this zoning is within the local zoning laws, and it will prevent any kind of potential fines or legal issues. Like I said, if you're using a property that is, and you're using it in the way that it was not intended, then you could have legal issues. Understanding developmental potential. So the feasibility analysis determines the feasibility of intended developments or modifications based on existing zone regulations. So if you buy a property and it is a single family residence property, and it's a 1 unit, and you want to use it as a duplex, then you have to get permits and other kind of okays on modifying this property. Like, you cannot just go in there and make a single family residence into a duplex or a duplex into a triplex. There are laws and rules and permits that you have to get in order to modify the property. You can't just go in there and do that. Property value implications, impact on property value. So zoning regulations can influence property values. For example, residential properties in a mixed-use area might have different values than those in a purely residential zone. So you have to make sure that you're checking out the property values if you are in a community where there is mixed-use properties, like a strip mall or grocery stores or banks or anything like that. You want to make sure to check out how that's impacting your property values if you're purchasing like a single family residence. Use and future planning. Use planning helps property owners and developers understand how the land can be used and plan accordingly. So this is covenants and restrictions. You want to make sure that you check the covenants and restrictions before you buy land. You want to make sure that you can develop on that land. I had a piece of land, it was 4 acres, and I had planned on developing more than one house on that land because it's 4 acres, right? Well, when I looked at the covenants and restrictions, it only allowed me to develop one house on that land. And that is not what I was looking for. I was looking to purchase this as an income producing asset. So what I ended up doing is I developed the land. I got the septic tank and the well on the land. I had the perk test done, which means I tested the soil to make sure that it didn't have any kind of hazardous materials. And then I flipped the land. So I was able to flip the land for double the price that I paid for, which made it a really great decision. But I had intended on using this land to build several houses on there. But when I looked at the covenants and restrictions, it was not zoned for that. So I had to do something else. I ended up doing a 1031 tax exchange. And we'll talk about that in another video as well. But that is really a great use of that investment, that 1031 tax exchange. Mitigating risk. So you're going to identify restrictions. Identify any restrictions on the property that may limit its use or potential resale value. So that kind of goes with what I was just saying with the covenants and restrictions. If there are restrictions on the property, then you can only do what is allowed for that property. So I know that was a lot, but this due diligence process is for your protection. So you want to make sure that you're taking notes and doing all of these things that we have discussed in this video. So if you would do me a favor, if you have not already, hit the like, subscribe, and notification button so that this information can get pushed out to other investors or home buyers. And stay tuned for part 3. We're going to talk about those last 3 processes in the due diligence process. And then, like I said, I will make a video on the appraisal process, because that is very important when you're looking to invest in property, because of the equity and the appreciation that happens in that investment. So I will see you on the next video, and I hope you got a lot of value out of this video. And like I said, I am going to be posting more content on real estate investing. So just stay tuned and keep your notebook handy, because there are a lot of pieces to real estate investing. Okay? So I will see you later. Goodbye.